Well, let's truck forward. We're 47 minutes in. We're at a good pace here, I think. So, Untitled, Led Zeppelin, 1971. This little hidden gem of an album that not many people have heard.
Hmm.
Um, we have 8 tracks. Pretty like tight album here. Very few tracks. Just a couple long ones, and that's kind of what puts the album like up to its proper length. But yeah, this is my favorite. I think it doesn't necessarily have all of my favorite songs. It's just so tight, and there's such little fat on here that it's just so cohesive and consistent. So we got Black Dog. It's not a bad hard rock track to open the album, but it's just not a personal favorite. But I do like the tone that it sets, and it is pretty fun. Rock and Roll, it's just rock and roll. Battle of Evermore, this cool like mandolin folk track, but kind of like That's the Way. It just feels too open and unconstrained for me. Stairway to Heaven is Stairway to Heaven. Um, Misty Mountain Hop, one that I actually dug quite a bit. Nice production on that piano and guitar riff. Not necessarily a favorite, but I just do enjoy listening to it. Four Sticks is this proto Swans groove kind of song, which just kind of feels like it's attacking you the whole time. Going to California, really nice, bittersweet track, kind of reminiscent of Tangerine, but it also looks forward towards things like the Rain song as far as like the playing and the composition goes. And then When the Levee Breaks, drums. That's just my notes for When the Levee Breaks. It just says drums. Um, so yeah, great album. I don't love like least favorites would be Rock and Roll and Four Sticks. But all the others on here I could listen to like just fine and enjoy myself. And obviously we got Stairway to Heaven, which is apparently one of the best songs of all time, although I don't know if that's necessarily true or not. But Twig, what do you think of four?
All right, this one's overrated a lot.
Oh,
Oh.
here he comes.
Nothing,
The king comes.
nothing on it, nothing on it is great in my opinion. Everything's just fine. Um, I don't know. I never come back to it. It's just boring.
Do you have any
Yeah,
Same.
I don't like it.
any favorites that you like at all?
Probably Misty Mountain Hop.
Hmm, interesting choice. Yeah, I'm
Swag.
surprised. I'm surprised you didn't pick Four Sticks because it's Swans, but in
Dun, dun,
1971.
dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, it was okay. Everything's just okay on the record. I don't really like it.
Okay, fair enough. Frostbite, anything to say about any of these tracks?
Yeah, like, well, I mean, looking at it, I can see why this, album is in such high regard because looking at the track listing, every song on this album is like a classic Led Zeppelin song. I mean, except maybe Four Sticks, but
Hmm.
all the rest of them are like big recognizable songs from them, that a lot of people know. This is probably the one that I probably hear the most often. It is overplayed, especially Black Dog and Rock and Roll and Stairway to Heaven, I played it all the time.
Right.
And on their own, I probably enjoy all those songs. I've just heard them so many times that, I don't, really choose to go back and listen to them. But I mean, I do like, it seems like everybody shares the same sentiment of liking Misty Mountain Hop. I think that one's a really good song on the album.
Yeah, totally.
Uh, and Going to California is really, I mean, I think the album's pretty good just overall.
Yeah, it's. I think it's the most consistent one of all the ones that I've heard so far. It's just really solid. Gran, what do you think?
This is my favorite out of the first four, which probably isn't surprising coming from someone that prefers one over two and three.
Likewise.
As you guys said, this is really a crown jewel for this band and this like genre in general.
Uh-huh.
It's not amazing. I will say that much. It's probably on par with like Led Zeppelin 1. I probably would not give this anything like above a 7. But I really like it. This album is track for track just bangers, like bumps in the whip. I really like the track sequencing. Like it is really well sequenced. You have
really good
Black
flow.
Dog, which you have Black Dog, which throws you right into the mess.
Yeah,
Well, not like mess in a bad way.
familiar territory if you're a Led
Yeah,
Zeppelin fan.
but it's interesting. It has a really great riff. I love the time signature switching between 4/4 and 7/8.
Hmm.
It's interesting. And then you got rock and roll, which is probably like one of the first few duds, but I like the energy a lot, and that's as much as I can say.
Yeah.
Battle of Evermore is a pretty cool like prelude into Stairway to Heaven, and even like going to side
That's a
two.
good way to put it as a prelude.
Yeah, and going into side two, I can't even say it falls like down a little bit in quality like it did with side one. It just feels like it's continuing as if like one long album.
Hmm.
It doesn't feel like, oh, we're gonna throw all the best tracks front load this thing, and then some weaker songs on the second side. No, it's just like each side has a lot of really good bangers. Even, and of course, there's When the Levee Breaks Down, which is like, come on, man, that drum sample.
So good, so good.
Drum samples, sex, man.
What are your
That's all I
favorites?
gotta say. Ooh, pretty much everything except for Rock and Roll, Four Sticks, and Going to California. This is a really consistent album. Oh, and Misty Mountain Hop, that has a really fugly riff, and I don't know why I like it so much. It's interesting.
I feel the same way. Like I said when I did the reaction, I was like, I don't know why I like this one so much, because like given what I've heard so far, like this sounds like one that I should not like as much as I do, but it is one of my favorites on here.
Yeah, I mean that's my favorite on the record too. The riff's just good.
I remember you compared When the Levee Breaks Down to like a song that could have came out in the 90s, which I didn't even peep out because it is such a really consistently played groove. Like
Uh-huh.
it's like it feels like trip hop almost. I don't know why I came up with that, but
Yeah.
it's just something that could have came out in the 90s,
It was
or at least
such
production-wise.
a forward thinking drum pattern. Like, and it's like that's why like when I first like clicked play on it, I was like, wait a second, am I listening to a 1971 hard rock album right now? It's like I feel like I've been transported forward like 20 years, and it's just like no, that's how seminal it was.
He was a great drummer, man. Whatever his name is.
John Bonham.
John Bonham, yeah, he was a pretty good rock drummer.
That
Yeah.
one guy, whatever his name is, man, he was good at drums.
That's just me in general. I'm not good at
It's all good.
fucking band names.
It's all good.
Really well performed throughout. Like sounds like a drum machine, honestly.
Totally. Shiftless, what do you think of Untitled?
Like Led Zeppelin IV has always held such high acclaim, and I think for the most part it's very much deserved.
Hmm.
Like it's incredibly, it captures their grandeur for doing things really big and elaborate, but just fine tune and just very much stripping the fat and being very lean with it to not be excessive.
Hmm.
I like a lot of the feel of it, the album. It's probably my second or third favorite. And like I'm gonna openly kid, I never liked Misty Mountain Hop. I always found it to be just kind of a bit too corny.
That's okay. I understand.
Yeah.
I don't blame you.
But no, I can see the appeal, but it's just not me. But something like Four Sticks and When the Levee Breaks, like I really love those songs because like it really showed the just complexity of their playing and how just widespread just dynamically they could be. Like
Yeah.
the parts, the acoustic parts in Four Sticks always feels like something I would imagine Buckley doing like an album or two later after Grace.
Mm-hmm. Totally. It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre to think of the connection with Led Zeppelin and Buckley. But like, I think it was in one of my videos where I kind of picked up on it. I think it was Plant's vocals that I kind of made that connection on. And like, the more I learn about that connection, the more sense it makes, even though they just seem worlds apart.
I get that. I hear a lot of it in like Buckley's playing because it reminds me of the acoustic side of Page. Like he has that
Yeah.
sense of like measured, like picking the notes properly and just trying to make sure everything goes the way it's supposed to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Something like Stairway, like it overextends itself in a legend, but I still think it holds up really good as a song in of its own.
I like how like Stairway is like allegedly one of the best rock songs, and we're just kind of like glossing over it, like everything that's been said has been said. We're just gonna not talk about it.
Because
It is
what else are we gonna do?
Exactly.
It is a really well performed song though. I like the way it progresses through different phases a lot.
It does have
People
my
never talk about how good that recorder is.
yeah, that medieval flair. It just really kind of elevates it, and it has. I think it's my favorite. I mean, this is so normie to say, but I think it's my favorite solo from Led Zeppelin and from Page. It's just
It
it just hits so well.
it doesn't stand out to me at all. Like just like the rest of the album. I don't know why it got praised.
Oh.
I have to say, Dazed and Confused is my favorite solo. Like it reaches into like heavy metal territory, and it's awesome.
And Killy's Last Stand though.
That's a pretty good one.
That's like their best track and has the best solo easily.
I have so many people who are like requesting that I listen to just that track, and I keep telling them like I promise I will get to the future albums. I don't want to like ruin it for myself, but they're like, please listen to it, just that one song. And I'm like, soon.
I would like a Fool in the Rain reaction because that one feels very off for Zeppelin. Because it's like a pop song almost.
It'll all happen eventually, I promise. All right, where were we? Shiftless. Were you done?
Yeah, I was done. I think we gotta go to what? House of Holy.
But what about Boss?
Oh, fucking shit.
I had to leave for a second. My Discord mobile was acting up.
That's okay.
Led Zeppelin IV, or as I should call it, Stairway to Heaven plus 7 other songs.
That's
Damn.
I mean, I think that's how some people might see it.
probably.
I mean, I still like it. I think it's front loaded, in my opinion.
Wow.
I mean, I think the second side has some good songs, but nothing like, oh, I want to listen to Led Zeppelin. I'm gonna listen to Four Sticks or Misty Mountain Hop. Those aren't like immediate ones I think of. I mean, I still do like When the Levee Breaks. When the Levee Breaks is probably actually my favorite song on that album, besides maybe Stairway. But I like it. It's good. I mean, there's probably been tons that people have said about it. There's not a lot I can add.
You know,
It's huge.
When you say it's front loaded, that's interesting because I could see like Misty Mountain Hop, Four Sticks, and Going to California being like weak tracks for some people. And to me, they almost feel like tracks that could have been on 3, but they would have been like the best tracks on 3 if they were on 3.
Yeah, I get that.
But those 3 tracks, they do kind of feel maybe a little, not out of place, but they are kind of like an interesting, like, you know, like Misty Mountain Hop makes some sense after Stairway to Heaven, but like Four Sticks is like a weird transition from Misty Mountain Hop to Going to California. And then Going in California goes into When the Levee Breaks, which is just like this heavy song. So like those 3 tracks, they kind of don't flow as well as the rest of the album. But I could see someone making a case for
Side 2 definitely feels like you know, like the spot where they could throw in some more wilder ideas, like with Four Sticks and Misty Mountain Hop. But you know, in comparison to the first side, which is a bunch of radio singles,
right.
But it is still pretty consistent in my opinion. I'd say it doesn't fall away too flat. Doesn't fall too flat. I mean,
sure.
On the second side.
Were you done, boss? Anything more to say? Any favorites?
The only other pointless thing that I have to talk about that adds genuinely probably nothing is that Frank Zappa does an amazing Stairway to Heaven cover that I really like.
It's better.
I've never heard of this.
Is it on an album?
Yeah, I'll send it. I'll send it in.
Okay.
But yeah, that's all I have to add. We can continue on to Houses of the Holy.
Houses of the Holy, 19...
I actually have to go right now because, well, I didn't plan to stay on long anyway, and I only heard these first 2.
Okay, well, it's good
So I'm gonna just leave by like just ranking them, I guess.
Okay.
First, my favorite from the ones I've heard is Led Zeppelin IV. Then it goes to 1, which is just barely underneath, and then it's 3 and 2.
Cool.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. I had fun, you guys.
Yeah.
See ya.
See you. Good to have you.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Right.
So, House of the Holy, 1973. We're trucking forward into weird territory here. We have 8 tracks again, a pretty tight album. Let's see. Opener, the song remains the same. Again, like with a whole lot of love, I'll probably get flack for just thinking it's kind of just kind of feels like a bland rock song compared to some of their other tracks. But the next track, oh man, Rain Song, fantastic kind of proggy folk track, has great guitar parts. Love the finger picking. I think there's finger picking, I could be wrong. Track 3, Over the Hills and Far Away. Cool like acoustic guitar riff, reminds me a little bit of Out on the Tiles. The crunch, or what is it, organ or mellotron or whatever. I don't even know what the heck is going on that track, but otherwise it's like it's an okay like funk track. It's fine. Dancing Days, really interesting like chromatic kind of progression with like this dark riff to it. Really interesting track. I don't know if I love it or if it stands up well on its own, but it's a really interesting listen. Then of course Jamaica doo-wop reggae, you know me. I think I surprised everyone with that one being my favorite, but it's just like, as not a person who's not a hard rock fan, like, you know, inherently it's just like, of course the things that I do like, which is doo-wop, is going to shine through. Track 7, No Quarter, really more of that great slow blues, but this also has this like kind of psych prog thing going on with it. I really love the tone of that track. And then
Seems like something off Wish You Were Here.
yeah, totally. I definitely got a Pink Floyd vibe from it. Man, I get so much flack for comparing Led Zeppelin to Pink Floyd, because they'll say like Led Zeppelin came first, and I'm like, that's not the kind of comparison I'm making. I'm just saying it sounds like something I've heard before. The Ocean, not really a favorite. I think it's kind of a dud personally, although the last half is kind of interesting. So where did I have this album? This is number 3. Yeah, I mean, the Crunge and the Ocean and the Song Remains the Same, probably my least favorites, but I dig the Rain Song. Over the Hills and Far Away is fine. Dancing Days is fine. Jamaica I like, and No Quarter I like. So, yeah, I think it's solid. Twig, what do you think of Houses of the Holy?
Alright, so this is my third favorite from them, yeah. It's the record where they sort of get experimental in some sections.
Mm-hmm.
I like every song off here, and the last half is probably the best stretch of songs they've ever done. My 2 favorites were, I have like so many favorites off here. The song remains the same, Crunge, Dancing Days, I like the riff a lot. No Quarter's really spacey, and The Ocean. I really like it when an album is bookended by like 2 really good tracks, because even if like the middle section's weaker, it sort of makes the record seem better in a way.
Sure.
That's how I like, and this is how this album is. Like the middle isn't poor, but it always leaves a good taste in my mouth after, which I don't really get with.
You shouldn't be eating your vinyls, Twig. It shouldn't be leaving a good taste in your mouth. Gross. You have one favorite off of here at all?
Probably Dancing Days. Yeah.
That does seem like a Twig choice. Yeah, good. So yeah, Shiftless. House of the Holy. What do you think?
It's probably my favorite Zeppelin album as I've gotten older, because I think it's their silliest and like it's just very much them being very tossed off after doing something as so concentrated like 4.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I don't know, I always value Zeppelin as being kind of just making a mockery a little bit of things, and that vibe, that sort of tossed off nature, I think makes the album very happy. Like I feel like they're experimenting, not all of it works, but you could tell they're just having fun in the studio being themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'm very shocked by you liking the Jamaica so much. Not because I didn't think you would like the song in of itself, but I thought you would find it way too much of a novelty.
It's hit one of my genre Achilles heels, man. And I think this was the album where like your predictions for my favorite started to like be incorrect. You were pretty good up until then, but this was the oddball.
Well, this album was the oddball in general, because like it's doesn't take itself seriously, and like even if you got something pretty a deranged song, then you have something like the crunch. Like,
Yeah.
how are you gonna really compare a lot of it?
Exactly. It one thing I will say is for how wildly different some of these songs are, I don't feel like, except for maybe Jamaica, which is like really like a sticks out like a sore thumb. I think the album has a pretty good flow to it, even though like I said, that they're doing a lot of different genres now, but like the flow just it works. I mean, maybe some people would disagree with that, but I just feel like the flow is pretty solid. It didn't, and even like Physical Graffiti, which has more stuff, it's like they don't really struggle with album flow a ton, which is surprising given how varied some of these tracks are.
I think they ultimately know how to sequence a lot of things very well. Like
Hmm.
their sense of arrangement in general is really good.
Yeah. Um,
My favorite tracks would probably be the Rain song and the Ocean.
oh, interesting picks. I dig it.
This I'd never liked the song remain the same. Like I always found it just too elongated for no reason.
I'm glad. I feel validated now. As soon as I started talking about this one, I'm thinking like, okay, I want someone to say they don't like the song remains the same, or that they like Jamaica, so I feel validated in my opinions. Boss, the unforgettable Boss. What do you think of Houses of the Holy?
It's really, really, really good. It's consistent besides maybe the crunch, and it flows really well. I do like the song remains the same as an opener. I do
Mhm.
like the I think what is it, the guitar riff on it,
Mm.
because it's like the first minute or two is instrumental. I really like that. It's a good opener for the album.
It feels like an introduction to
Um,
something.
Feels like a
yeah,
Who track to me.
yeah. That actually I was gonna compare it to some other like rock band around the same era.
Yeah,
But yeah, the Who's the perfect example of it. Does feel like a Who track.
totally.
Um, I I just heard the crunch for the first time like a few days ago, and God, that surprised me. I was like, what am I listening to?
I
Like,
know.
I was interested the same way that there's some stuff on like Physical Graffiti that really interests me.
Hmm.
But I mean, I don't really particularly love the two, like I wouldn't call them epics because they're not in the same way like Stairway or Cashmere. With like I don't dislike the Rain song or No Quarter. They're just like ones I don't come back to probably due to their length.
Sure.
I
I probably
I
feel the
love the
same.
Ocean. The Ocean's probably like top 5 Led Zeppelin songs for me. Same
Whoa.
with Day or Maker's really good.
Hey, I'm validated.
Um, Dancing Days has a good uh riff to it.
Hmm.
A lot of these it's a really good solid album. And I will say I'm kind of disappointed that the actual House of the Holy like title track isn't on here. I wish it was on here instead of the crunch. I'd
Yeah,
probably like the album a bit better, but I think they kept it off because it was too similar to other tracks on the album.
yeah, maybe. Like I can see the argument for taking it off and leaving it on and whatnot. Frostbite, are you alive?
Yeah, I think I got it figured out.
Okay, cool. Anything to say about House of the Holy? You know any of these tracks?
Yeah. Well, what I was saying earlier before I realized none of you guys could hear me was beforehand, I guess, like, and maybe even currently still, the only songs I'm really familiar with are, the song remains the same and Jamaica, and I would agree with you on Jamaica because I really like that song. Like I like listening to it because it's different than most of the rest of their catalog.
Double
Um,
validated.
but after going back over this album, like I really dig the vibe and the grooves of the Rain song and
Hmm.
No Quarter, and I think I'm going to be revisiting those two a lot. So
Cool. Okay, so let's move on to Physical Graffiti. Last album I listened to, 1975, 82 minutes long. Very little fat on this thing, though. Only like a handful of tracks that I didn't dig. So, 15 tracks. I just recently did my follow-up to this, so I don't know if I'll necessarily go super in depth here. I'll just kind of rehash it again. Custard Pie, odd intro, but weird subject matter, but cool kind of production on the guitar. The Rover, cool rock song with a nice chorus riff, but it's nothing overly memorable. I don't come back to it often. In My Time of Dying, a bit long, I think, for what it does, but the slide guitar is really cool and it picks up to a nice tempo a little bit later into the song. House of the Holy, more cool instrument production, but for me it was just kind of a skippable hard rock song. It didn't really feel like it fit on this thing. Trampled Underfoot, a really nice surprise for me. Like this sweet kind of funk blues riff with cool arrangement, a really fun song. Dig that one. Kashmir, obviously a highlight, has a great riff and composition, and it feels epic and it has that Eastern flair, which is really cool. I always dig when artists kind of fiddle with other like scales and modes when they write songs. In the Light, another highlight, more of that world music flair with this almost Pink Floyd-esque prog element. It has this nice kind of bright chorus riff later on in the track. It just has a lot of variety to it. Kind of warrants its length. Brawny War, again, just another good acoustic interlude. Down by the Seaside, favorite off the album. I love the Neil Young kind of tribute, and I think it works really well. It's just its own track too, regardless of the fact that it's like a Neil Young send up. 10 Years Gone, nice subdued rock song. It kind of sounds like a harder version of Thank You. Night Flight, kind of skippable to me. It doesn't really hold up to the other material on the album. Just kind of feels weak in comparison. The Wanton song, crazy riff and organ breakdown in the chorus. It almost has like a psychedelic note to it. Pretty fun. Boogie with Stew, another favorite. I love that kind of honky tonk boogie. Has great production and riffs with I think that like mandolin breakdown later on. Black Country Woman, I don't know, the vocals really rub me the wrong way on this track. I just do not dig it at all. And then Sick Again is it's okay. It's kind of a forgettable outro for me, and along with Night Flight, those are my two least favorites. But for how many tracks are on this thing, 15, and at 82 minutes long, it just there feels like there's very little fluff to this thing. It's just all pretty solid stuff. And I had this, what was it, second favorite, I think? Yes, second favorite. So, Twig, Physical Graffiti. You said this was your favorite, and now it's got knocked down. Presence is your favorite again. So, what do you think of Physical Graffiti?
All right, so it's easily their best, like objectively. Of course, Presence my favorite, but anyway, it's the most ambitious. It has like the best riffs and grooves in my opinion. I'm just gonna name all the songs I like because there's so many. The Rover, My Time of Dying, Trampled Underfoot, In the Light, and Black Country Woman. I love basically every single song except the Sick Again and Down by the Seaside. I hate. It's so awkward and just feels, I don't know, it just, I hate it.
Is it basic indie?
No, it's not. It's not basic indie. It's, I don't know, maybe it's the effect on the guitar or however, like I just don't like it.
It's like a chorus or like a whammy or something that is on the guitar. Yeah.
I just really don't like it at all.
Fair enough.
Wait, are we going through Presence or the rest of the one that didn't go after this?
We can touch on them briefly, yeah. I mean, it's just like two or three. So, Frostbite. Any of these tracks?
Yeah, House of the Holy is probably my favorite Led Zeppelin track. I just like.
Oh.
I don't know. I like the riff and I like the catchiness of it. I'm kind of upset that it wasn't on the album of its same name. And then my only other comment really is, I know a lot of people, praise Kashmir. I think, it's got a cool sound to it, but I think it's way too long for what it does. I'd probably like it a lot better if it was like 2 or 3 minutes long, but it's 8.5 minutes and it doesn't ever sound like it goes anywhere.
That's a fair criticism, and like I fully admit that like my liking of it is subjective because it really only has like two or three parts to it, and they just repeat. But like for some reason it's entertaining enough for me that I don't mind it being that long. But someone saying it feels too long, I think that's perfectly valid. Shiftless, physical graffiti.
I really applaud the album for being probably their best musically, but it's a little too scattershot in certain places for me to like really get immersed.
Hmm.
Like I think it's front loaded from the first album and probably the part of the second album, but I don't know. I really appreciate the fact that they were just trying to kind of go see texture wise everything that they could really do.
Hmm.
I think my favorite track off of it had to be In My Time of Dying or Trampled Underfoot.
Interesting choices. I dig it.
Well, like I like the funky track, and also I think In My Time of Dying is like the best personification of them doing like the stretched out rock song, but being very clever about it. Even though I will agree it is long.
Yeah, it's
I'm happy about being able to predict most of the album's tracks that you would actually like though. I'm gonna see if I could do that again when we get to the Stones.
Did you make predictions for this one? I don't remember.
I did it after the fact. Like you didn't tell me which ones were your
Oh,
favorite,
okay.
but
Well,
the only one that I don't think I did was for I think
Houses of the
House of
Holy?
Holy. Yeah,
Okay.
that was the only one because I was like, I have no real consistent way to gauge where you're gonna come from it.
Right.
I still wouldn't have been wrong.
Which ones did you pick for this one? I forget. Do you remember that you thought were might have been my favorites?
I remember 10 years after. Kashmir definitely, and I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember the last one. Yeah, all I remember was Kashmir and 10 years after.
You got Kashmir. I'd say Kashmir, Down by the Seaside, and Boogie with Stu are probably my top three on this thing that I actually come back to as individual tracks. But there's just a lot of good quality content on here. Good stuff.
Also, I think the Wanton song is underrated just in the fact that it sounds incredibly angry
Yeah.
and ferocious for something that was like in '75.
Yeah. It's pretty solid. I wasn't expecting. I mean, after the Lemon song, I was like, okay, another, the blank song or whatever. It's like
Custard pie. Like maybe they're just like eating that.
maybe, yeah, I
on
don't
their
know.
off time.
Unforgettable Boss. What do you think of Physical Graffiti?
This, I probably have the most to say about this because I listened to this morning.
Ooh.
I've been listening to all 6 of these and all 6 of your reaction videos. I haven't seen your reaction video yet. I'm gonna watch that after this. But I listened to this album this morning, and it's really good.
For your first time?
Yeah,
Wow.
for my first time.
Cool.
Like full way through, and I'd say like side 2, House of the Holy, Trampled Underfoot, and Kashmir, especially Kashmir. That's probably like my favorite side of any Led Zeppelin album, and like the side 2 and 3 is just it's strangely not front or back loaded. It's like middle loaded.
Yeah, I agree.
The middle of this album, sides 2 and sides 3 are full of just amazing tracks. I think there's a few tracks I don't like on this album. I think again, In My Time of Dying, I think is really long, like really long for the fact that you also have like 2 other really long songs on here.
Yeah, it's 11 minutes.
There's just a lot. Yeah, but yeah, Kashmir, amazing, and my pointless tangent is one of the times when I saw Wayne live, they performed Kashmir as the closer for the night, and that was like one of my favorite musical experiences.
That's pretty legit.
Because hearing that amazing song performed by an amazing band live is just great.
Ween could cover anything side, and it would make sense.
Yeah. Side 4 is, I mean, it isn't terrible, and I know a lot of people are like, this is the weakest side. There's a lot of just like, I think that's the general consensus is people don't like side 4 of this album.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's terrible. I mean, if there's anything that I'd call forgettable, it'd probably be like the Wanton song or Boogie with Stu.
Mm-hmm.
Those are tracks I just thought were okay. I think that's my general opinion on it. Is it's really good, but I think that's also the general consensus.
Yeah, it's just really solid, really consistent. Has a lot of great tracks. It's legit. I like how it's kind of a very fitting album to end my reaction spree on, because like it has all, how many, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven outtakes from previous eras, one going all the way back to Led Zeppelin III, and it's just like it's surprisingly consistent for what's on it, and it's just this really cool snapshot of like where the band was at that time. It almost feels like this kind of pinnacle. Yeah, it was really cool. So I guess we'll cover briefly the next 2/3 albums that I will listen to. I'm torn on whether or not I should listen to Coda, because people say that it's just kind of like an after the fact thing and it might not be as good. I don't know. But I know Twig loves Presence, so this came out the next year. So Twig, what do you think of Presence?
All right, so I'm just gonna run through these three right now because I
Okay.
have to go.
Okay.
Okay, so Presence, it's probably their most chill record. It's really consistent. None of the tracks feel awkward. There's always one track on every album by them that feels kind of just something off about it. But it's just super. I think that you really like it.
Looks like they're,
And
because
then
Achilles' Last Stand is 10 minutes, and then like a lot of the other tracks, there's like two 6-minute tracks, a 9-minute track. So these are all pretty long.
yeah, I like long. And
Boom
then
Tish.
I absolutely hate the next album, Enter the Outdoor. This is easily the worst. I really just don't like it at all. It incorporates the most corny synths you've ever heard, and it's just awful. And then there's Coda, which I think gets overhated. It's fine. It's like
It's
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 an
only
album
it's only
full of
it's only 33 minutes. I didn't realize it was that short.
it. Pictured as like an album that's full of Led Zeppelin openers, just like basic Led Zeppelin songs.
Hmm.
It's not bad. It's not great though.
Okay. Interesting. Cool.
Anyway, I'm off.
Fare thee well, Twig.
Bye.
Yeah, Twig.
We bow to the king. Frostbite, do you know any tracks off of the next two albums worth commenting about?
I think I know a couple of them from the rest of the albums, but I don't really have a lot to add on those. But I do want to say that I've been liking, jokingly saying that my favorite Led Zeppelin album is Coverdale Page, which was when Jimmy Page did an album in the '90s with David Coverdale, the singer of Deep Purple and Whitesnake, and I probably prefer that entire album over anything he did with Zeppelin. So I like to jokingly tell people that I know a big Led Zeppelin fan, so that's my favorite Led Zeppelin.
That's really funny.
And so I would recommend just if you have time and just for free time, not necessarily a reaction or anything, just to listen to it. I don't think it's necessarily something you may like as much, just because it is more rock oriented album, but it'd be cool for you to just listen to, I guess, to see where Jimmy Page was at, I guess, after Led Zeppelin and into the.
Well, I like following like what different guitarists are doing. It's like same with Johnny Marr. Like did amazing stuff with the Smiths, and it's just like you're focused. Like it's so good that you're like, I actually want to pay attention to this one guy and see what else he's done in different projects and stuff like that. So, and like Page is similar. Like I think I said in was it the follow up for Physical Graffiti? I can't remember. I was like, what's Page? I asked like people, the viewers, like, what's Page been up to? Like since Led Zeppelin disbanded, like what are different things that he's been involved in? And so yeah, what was that album called again?
It's Coverdale Page.
Okay, I'll check that out. I dig Page, so I want to hear more from him.
Well, and then also just to add on top of that, Robert Plant went on to have like a long solo career after that. But just you can add, if you ever have time to check out, my favorite Robert Plant solo album is probably his Manic album.
Cool. I will look into that. I know he's collabed with like Alison Krauss and people like them and stuff like that. I don't know as much about Plant, but yeah, I'll check those out. Cool. Shiftless. Anything to say about the 2/3 albums coming up?
Not especially. Like they never really held much water. There's like a couple of tracks on occasion I'll remember, but it's kind of not as identifiable in my head for some reason.
Sure.
If we're gonna talk random plugins for a page, just get the Death Wish 3 soundtrack.
Oh, yeah, I forgot you did the Death Wish soundtrack. Someone mentioned that.
That always baffles me, especially because you hear it and you go like, "Oh, this definitely sounds like Led Zeppelin playing on a very violent vigilante film."
The question is, does it work?
Yes and no, but that's if you're an auteur for bad films.
Which I mean, I kind of am. You know,
Same.
I watch all the best of the worst that Red Letter Media does. Watch those with my wife every time they release them. So we're
Oh,
what was that?
I was gonna literally say what Pisces was gonna bring up, like Dumb Crooked Vultures, which was like a super group of Josh Homme and Dave Grohl. Like, I thought that was a really good project, and it really showed that John Paul Jones could still do it even at like an advanced age. And like
What was it called? Them Crooked Vulture?
Crooked Vulture. Yeah.
Interesting. I'm just now learning of this. They were active for
remember.
1 year.
Yeah, like a lot of super groups.
Yeah, it happens.
But like, yeah, I think the next thing that you'll appreciate from John Paul Jones, if we get to like REM, will probably be Automatic for the People, because he did a lot of arranging for that album.
Oh,
And
cool.
it's very
I was
ornate.
just about to say that. That's yeah. I had that prepared to say. Shiftless beat me to it.
Arg.
That's cool. I didn't know. Like, man, JPJ is like, he's kind of like the Ed O'Brien of Led Zeppelin. Whereas
He's the underrated one because he played most of the various instruments.
yeah,
And he helped with a lot of arranging in a way that I think most people didn't give him credit for. Plus the phenomenal basses.
there's always like the really solid bassist, the bass player who's just like overlooked. It's like it's such a crime, such a crime.
He had the page boy hair, so no one wanted to see that.
Oh man. All right, boss. Anything to say about the next 2/3 albums?
I haven't heard anything off Presence or Coda. I'll have to get to those at some point. But Into the Outdoor, I've just heard a few select tracks that I personally like. That Into the Outdoor, I think is just another weird Led Zeppelin album, because it has the stuff I've heard off it, which are Fool in the Rain, which is really good. Probably one of my favorite Led Zeppelin songs. I've heard Hot Dog, which is, I think people think that's their worst, like that's one of their worst. And it reminds me of something like The Crunge, where it's just them experimenting with something completely different that you're like, why is Led Zeppelin doing this? But I think Hot Dog works okay. From what I can remember, it's been a while since I've heard that. And then I've heard All My Love, which All My Love is another great song. I think Fool in the Rain and All My Love are just great, like beautiful songs.
Cool.
And I was gonna say the John Paul Jones thing for Automatic for the People, and my other pointless fact would be that Wayne also covered All My Love during, I think, their concert film. They played All My Love, and it's great. I don't know. It's weird that I know about all these other artists covering Led Zeppelin, but you know they're Led Zeppelin. Everybody's probably tried to cover them.
Totally.
The other thing I was going to mention before was I think Tool did a cover of No Quarter, which I haven't listened to.
That makes sense.
That'd probably be really cool. I don't know. Tool's hit or miss for a lot of people, but I like them. But yeah, these last few albums I still need to check out. I always joke that Coda's terrible, but I've never really given it a chance. So I should probably get to that.
Yeah, it looks like it's fairly hit or miss. There's like some places that, like some publications that are giving it like 2 or 3 stars. Other things giving it like a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. I don't know.
I would still say listen to it to like kind of to tie the bow around Led Zeppelin, because it, you know, even with the fact it's called Coda, it's meant to be the last thing.
Kind of the button at the very end of the whole thing. Cool.
How do you feel with Led Zeppelin compared to Pink Floyd, since that's like your benchmark of big classic rock?
Yeah. I think as a whole, I like Led Zeppelin more. Um, I mean, how many Pink Floyd albums did I do? I did Dark Side, Wish You Were Here, Animals, Wall, and then Piper, right? So that's 5.
Yeah.
And I did 6 Zeppelin. So I've technically heard like a very similar amount, but like I just feel like there's way more that Zeppelin did that I enjoy than Pink Floyd. But like Pink Floyd dabbled in hard rock, but I most of what I've heard so far was like prog stuff, and that's always been kind of hit and miss for me because it feels like this weird like grandpa to post rock, and I'm much more like into post rock than I am prog rock. But sometimes like some of the prog stuff that Pink Floyd would do, I was really down with. I think maybe it was some of the vocal deliveries and some of the like extended solos that Pink Floyd would do that I just didn't dig. Like I get so much flack for like Wish You Were Here being like one of my least favorites of theirs. That whole
Album wise or just the song?
the album.
Okay.
A couple tracks on there that I like, but which was like I think Welcome to the Machine and Wish You Were Here, and then some elements of Shine On. But yeah, I think Led Zeppelin, they just had more variety, and I think the songwriting was just more impressive to some degree. I don't know. They're very similar in a lot of ways, but they feel really hard to compare as well because they did different things and they had different histories. So yeah, I think I am more of a Zepp head, if you want to call me that. I don't know.
I will say that the Pink Floyd albums you listen to, I think that's like right in the middle of their discography, because Pink Floyd is a super long,
Yeah.
longer discography compared to Led Zeppelin just has the 8 or 9.
Yeah.
So I mean it's super hard to compare them because Pink Floyd I think went through like 3 different eras, kind of their early stuff, their prog stuff, and then their later stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dark Side was their 8th album.
Yeah,
and it's like
Like,
so I
I
heard.
get where you're coming from with a comparison though,
Yeah.
because it is the only thing you can kind of compare them to.
Yeah, and it's like
you're comparing them in the same decade, so it's at least a little bit more feasible.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't feel super comfortable saying one over the other just because I know I haven't heard everything Pink Floyd has to offer, because it's like just looking through their discography here, it's like I've heard album 1, album 8, 9, 10, and 11.
Also, you'll get hate either way if you say one's better than the other.
I know.
Some
So pick your
mob will
poison.
come after you. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like I'll readily admit that like I haven't heard Saucer Full of Secrets, Umaguma, Atom Heart Mother, Metal, and like I know that those are like part of their kind of like second phase or / first phase still. So it's like of what I've heard, I think I like Zeppelin more, but I'm not gonna hold out like final judgment until I hear more Pink Floyd. So I think that's it, gentlemen. This has been a pleasure. Thank you all for joining the discussion. We did it in an hour 37, right on time. Very good.
Yay, that's our best time so far.
New record.
I know, it's good. But anyway, thank you, gentlemen. It was good talking to you. You all have a pleasant day, and I'll catch you around.
I've got one question.
I have one answer.
Joy Division New Order discussion when?
Oh,
Do that after the New Order.
yeah. Once I finish New Order, which is next, I have 4 albums or something, and then electronic. We should do like just this massive Joy Division New Order discussion.
It's gonna be like
Okay.
I haven't listened to any albums by either Joy Division or New Order.
Oh,
so
you're in for a treat, man.
I need to listen to those at some point if I ever break.
Well, I have videos to watch when you get to those albums. So
Yeah. Companion pieces.
exactly. Cool. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. I'll catch you around. And there's the discussion. A lot of fun, a lot of cool stuff talked about there. I hope you guys enjoyed. Probably split this video into 2 different videos, although by the time you're watching now, it won't matter because you'll know it's a two-parter. But yeah, so New Order is the next band I will be listening to, and then when we're done with that, we'll probably do a big Joy Division New Order discussion to finish out those 2 artists. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you around. Godspeed.